Right, okay, well, we're going to take this 3D model from Onshape, we're going to take it into a analysis software, set up a virtual wind tunnel, and then we're going to look at the results. We're going to step through how you do that. So this is an F1 in schools car that I found on Onshape that we're going to use for our example. So the tutorial is based on a piece of software, again available online like Onshape, called SimScale. So if you go to simscale.com, sign yourself up. I'd recommend using your college email because then you're there for an educational account. And once you've done that, you should be looking at something not dissimilar to this. I would then suggest you go to public projects there and do a search for Hopwood Hall F1 for schools, and then you will have access to, in the best traditions of TV, one that I made earlier. We're going to use that as a base. We're going to import the new model into there. There are some things we've still got to do, but it does mean we can do things a little bit easier. There's less to set up than if we were starting from scratch. Okay, so we're going to do that now. I'm going to make a copy of this, and then we'll work through that. Okay, so here we are. Let's see what we've got. Okay, so you should open up with something like this. This big blue box is the wind tunnel, and we can see here we've got an imprint of half of the car. So we need to set that up for our own model. Just to give you an idea, what we'll end up with is something like this. There we are, and we'll be able to look at that. We can look at the graph, and we can get them set up graphs, and we can start to analyse our model. Okay. So, where do we start? And we start right up at the top here with geometries. What we need to do is we need to import our own geometry. So we're going to hit the plus button there. You can import from the computer, drag and drop your file from the computer, or in my case, I'm just going to go to Onshape, and I'm going to find my file from there. Okay, so there's my F1 in schools car copy, Part Studio 1, and hit the import button. Okay, so we can see here we've imported that geometry. We've got now two options. We've got the original and our new Part Studio. And it says here that we should probably edit in CAD mode. So let's go and do that. So what we've got to do in CAD mode then is we need to create a wind tunnel. So that's quite easy to do. We go to Flow Volume, External, and you can see we've created a huge wind tunnel. So we want to do something a little bit smaller. And so if we put the numbers in as follows, we should have something that's in the right scale. Okay, so these are the values that are used in the previous model that you've copied, that you're hopefully working in. But what we can see is that we've got this long area in front of the car and a short area behind the car. And what we want is for that to be the other way around, a short area in front of the car and a long area behind the car, so we can do more analysis on the fluid flow behind the car. And it might be that instead of your car being on the y-axis, like this one is, your car might be on the x-axis, so you might be looking at a car that's facing into the box. In which case you just need to kind of swap your x and y values around. So what we're going to do here is, that's y is 0.9, so I'm just going to make the maximum 2, and that's going to be minus 0.9. And there you can see we've got a short area in front and a large area behind. Okay, so that's our wind tunnel there, and you can see also it just chops the car in half. It's probably worth mentioning at this point before we go much further that what we need to do is make sure that our part is, while we refresh here, make sure that our part is, there we are, is on this, that we've got a plane that's cutting through the middle of our part that is symmetrical about the plane, because that will make our lives much, much easier. Okay, so we're cutting it out because it's symmetrical. We only need to simulate what's going on half the car. So we're going to click apply, and then I'm sure we can probably make that a bit narrower, can't we? Let's just do that. Yes, never mind the narrowness, that's fine. The other thing that we've got to do is we've got to make sure that the bottom of the wind tunnel is actually in line with the bottom of the wheels. And as you can see here, it's actually in line with this bottom surface here. So we just need to offset that by the correct amount. So we just need to flick back to our model, and then however you do it on your system, I'm obviously going to do it the Onshape way. So let's just get a front view there. Selecting a wheel, select my origin point, and go down to the bottom right of the screen, show measure details. The one that I want is the Z distance there. You can see it shows that for me as 6.73. So I'm just going to copy that, and then I'm going to drop that into there. And we might want to put a minus sign in it. As you can see, that is absolutely huge because it's wanting a value in meters. So we need to put that in millimeters. So we just need to say E, which this software uses for instead of times 10 to times 10. So we're saying times 10 to the power minus 3. What we should see then, if we zoom in, is that we are nicely aligned on the wheels. Okay, so I'm just going to hit apply there. Okay, so you can see we're nicely lined up on the wheels there. Okay, right, the final thing that we need to do before we leave this mode is we actually delete the car itself so that we get a negative image of the car inside the wind tunnel. So to do that, I'm just going to select these three faces. I'm going to right click, and I'm going to hide selection. I'm going to zoom out a bit, and I'm going to click and these other three faces. I'm going to right click, and I'm going to say hide selection. So we're just left with the car. Up here you see we've got a selection tool. So I'm going to select the selection tool. He says select the selection tool. I'm going to drag it around the car, and that is going to be body delete. So we've deleted the car. Okay. There we go. And you can see we're left with half a car. And that's kind of the negative image of the car within the wind tunnel. Okay, so we're done here. So we hit the export button at the top right. So once we've done that, we can right click on and remove the others. So that's Part Studio, and there's our original delete meshes and unassign. Okay. So now we've got our geometry. Now we're ready to start our simulation. So you can see we've already selected an incompressible. So for the ease of modelling on this, we imagine the air flowing across the car is incompressible. This is an assumption we make, but it's good enough. So we need to select our geometry because we deleted the geometry that it was previously associated with. So we just click on geometry, and then we select the Part Studio that we've made. Okay, so we can see that pop in there. Then we need to set the materials of that's flowing through our tunnel. Liquid, oil, no, air. So we've selected air, no volumes assigned, so we can just go over to the right hand side there and just click flow region and then clicking the volumes assigned box. So we've now got air flowing through our wind tunnel. The next thing we need to do is we need to set up some conditions so that the simulation knows where the air is coming from and where it's going. So these are called boundary conditions. So our velocity inlet is going to be this face here. That's where the air is coming from. Our pressure outlet, because we don't want all that air just building up and exploding, do we? So that's where it's going out of. Okay. Our wall 3 is called a slip wall. And that's this face and this face. Okay. Then we have a symmetry wall, which is obviously the one that's chopping our car in half. And then finally, wall 5 is a non-slip wall, and that's our car. So I'm just going to close that for a second. So once more, I'm going to select the faces of the wind tunnel. I'm going to hide selection. I'm going to select the other 3 faces of the wind tunnel, and I'm going to hide those as well. Hide selection. Okay, so let's zoom in on that a little bit. I'm going to select. Okay, I'm going to select all that. And I'm going to just click there on topological entity sets, and I'm going to call that car. Just so we can select it more easily in the future. Okay, so we've got our car there. So I'm going to click on wall 5 once more. No faces aligned. I'm just going to select car there. Faces aligned. There we go. So we've selected our car there at number 5. Okay. So if we just go to flow region, we can toggle the eyeball back in, can't we? There we go. So we've got everything back in view. Okay. We don't need to touch advanced concepts because they're already set up for us. Okay. So the next thing we move to now is results control. So we want some forces and moments data, and you can see we've got a little red cross there. So things to think about here, we need to look at centre of rotation. Lift direction will depend on which way your car is orientated. Where Z-axis is up and down for us, so we've got a 1 metre there for lift direction. And the drag direction is going to be the same direction that the car's facing. So in our case, that's on the Y-axis, so that's why we've got 1 metre there. We don't need to touch anything else for the moment. Right, so we've got centre of rotation. Centre of rotation is often called the centre of mass, so we can do that easily in OnShape, he says. We can do that easily in OnShape. So if you've got an assembly here with various parts, you need to select all your parts. You need to make sure that each part is assigned a material. So if you right click, it says edit material or assign material. So you just right click on the part, and then I've got for foam core for the main body. That's for everything because this particular drawing is just done in one part. Okay, so that's foam core. But you might want to select steel for your axles and ABS or nylon for the plastic wheels. Alright, so select your materials, make sure that each part has a material. So once you've done that, you can select your part, or all the parts. So if you've got more than one part down here, you can select them all. And then if you go right down to the bottom right corner, you'll see the weighing scales there. It says display mass properties. So we're going to have a look at those mass properties. And hopefully, as long as everything's got material, we should see what they are. Now you can see the X value is very small, because our centre of mass should actually be on that centre line there, shouldn't it? So we'll ignore that one for now. But now we're just going to copy these values, and then put them into the right places here. So put that there. So we don't need the millimetres. We need to make that e to the -3. Okay, and then I'm going to do the same for the z value. So copy that back to SimScale there, and e to the -3. Okay, so if we, let's just spin that, no, wrong way. Let's just spin that around there. What we should see is that we've got that centre of mass there. Should be, hopefully, in the same place as it is on our drawing there. We can see that it is. Yeah? Yeah, that looks about the same place, doesn't it? Fantastic. So the last thing we need to do then is we need to assign a face. So the face that we assign is we just select car once more. So if we go there, select the car, and there we are. So we've got an assigned face and it's the car. Okay, right. Oops, daisy. So it's because the buttons are all different to one shape. I get terribly confused. So that's our result control. So the next thing we need to do, we're almost there, is we need to generate a mesh. So the mesh is it chops it up into lots and lots and lots and lots of little triangles, and then it analyses what's going on in each of these little triangles. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to add a refinement to the mesh. Okay, region refinement. So what we're going to say is we want it to be more accurate fairly close to the car, and then it can be less accurate further away from the car. Okay, so region refinements, we're going to bring this up, and we're going to generate a primitive. So we want a Cartesian box there. As you can see, we've got a huge box, so we need to add some values to that. So if we put in the following values. Okay, so you can see the values I've entered: 0.10, minus 0.1, minus 0.60, 0, 0, 0.32, and 0.1. And we can see we're not quite flush at the bottom there. Let's, whoopsie daisy, getting a bit too click happy there. So you can see we're not quite flush at the bottom there. So we need to just take that distance that we had before on shape, where let's go to the front there, we just click those 2 points and we went to the measuring tape and he says, and show measurements. There we are, and we just took that value and pasted it in. So we'll just do that again. It's going to be a minus value because it's down, and again we need to remember that it's in millimetres, so it's E minus 3. Okay, so we can see that lines up nicely now. Okay. Now, once more, if you remember at the start, we had the long. There we are. That'll learn me to leave my phone switched on. Right. Okay. So where were we? Yes. So we've got the Z value. We've got the height correct. So that's our Cartesian box. So yes, it's longer in the front than it is in the back, and what we need is the other way around. So we just need to swap our x and y values around. So that's 0.32, so I'm just going to copy that, and I'm going to replace that with our 0.6. Okay, 0.32, that was 0.6. Oops, daisy. We missed a minus sign, there we go. So put a minus sign there, fantastic. So now we've got more analysis, so we can see about the turbulence after the winds hit the car. So we're going to hit tick there. There we are. So that's all good. So we have that done. So now we can go to our mesh box again, and we can generate our mesh. So this will take between 16 and 24 minutes apparently. So I'll pause the video and see you when it's done. Hit the generate button. There we are, started, fantastic. Alright, see you shortly. Just before we do press that button, we need to make sure we go to the region refinement, and we need to, because it's quite a small piece that we're doing, let me move that down to 0.1 metres or 100 centimetres instead of it being a metre. Okay, so let's do that before we hit that mesh generate button. Okay, here we go. Almost there. Okay, and there we have our finished mesh. If we just spin there and zoom in, you can see we've got a much finer mesh around our vehicle than we do everywhere else, which is what we want. So that's what that refinement area was about. So now we've got our mesh, we can run our simulation. You see what I mean by it being all triangles. So we're going to go to simulation runs. We're going to hit plus. Let's call it run full, why not? This will take about an hour, apparently. And away we go. So I'll start that running, and then once we've got that up and running, I'll open one that we did earlier and just go through sort of how we might set up an animation or something. Okay, right, so I'm going to hit that start button. Right, so once a run's finished, you'll probably be presented with, he says, there we go, a big yellow box that looks a little bit like that, and it isn't really that interesting to look at, so we can see that. So best thing to do is to select those three sides, hide selection, select those three sides and hide selection. Okay, so now we can use these things here to set up what we're doing. So zoom in a bit, spin around a little bit. So here we've got a particle trace. So parts colour, so we can choose what colouring we want. Turbulent kinetic energy, pressure, velocity of the air. So if we have the Y velocity, well, that's not moving at all, is it? Of course it's not. Let's see if we get anything on the Z. No, not really. Okay, so pressure's probably our best bet there. So we can see we've got large amounts of pressure at that front end there, which means that's where we're losing energy there. So that would be something we could perhaps look at sorting out on our next thing. So we've got a particle trace here. Yeah, you can see the particle trace button there. You can add a particle trace. So you've got to pick your position. So I've picked this end of our wind tunnel. So pick your position. Then you set up how many dots you've got. Representation, number of pulses, size, and then you can set up an animation. And so we can see that going like so. There we go. And you can even make a little animated GIF about it. So we can do that. We've got convergence plots. He says. So we can delve into this and find out more about what all that means. And I think where this will really start to come into its own. Our force coefficients plot. We set up a force of coefficients, didn't we? So we can see that as well. So I think this will sort of start to come into its own once you've sort of had a look once, made some adjustments, and then we can check those drag coefficients and see if they've gone down or up depending on our changes. Because less drag is better, and we can start to use this tool for iterative design. So hopefully that's certainly enough to get you to do your first simulation, and we might need to spend a little bit more time doing the animate on how to get it to animate, but that's certainly get you most of the way through. All right, thank you very much. Have a good day.